Alrighty, welcome back to Let's Play Bioshock 2. So, now that we've acquired some Atom here in Pauper's Drop, let's go see what all the cool upgrades we can get are now in this game. Now that we have access to a Gatherer's Garden machine here in this level, we can see just what kind of powers are available to us in this game. And a lot of them, especially the tonics, as you can see, are available right off the bat. The first thing I'm going to get, I need to get some more plasmid slots and gene tonic slots, especially tonic slots, because I've got a lot of good tonics I haven't equipped yet. The drill power one is definitely going to be good, because like I said, the drill is powerful for the rest of the game, and crap, I went and bought the Winter Blast there, but I don't have a fourth plasmid slot, so that'll be the next thing I'll have to get. And there's a whole list of tonics that are available at your disposal right now, some of which you'll automatically get later in the game, so I don't think they're terribly crucial to get, or you'll get like the better versions of them later. I'm taking this exploding barrel with me with the telekinesis because we're going to have to fight a new enemy type here. This is the Brute Splicer. The Brute Splicer is new to Bioshock 2. And he is spliced up like mad, and so he has ridiculous roid rage, as we can see, and he can chuck things at us. And he's overall just very powerful. They usually only fight one at a time, though, with a few exceptions, but since they are still regular splicers, they don't have any mechanical additions, like if you were fighting Big Daddies or something. They're still vulnerable to anti-personnel rounds, so using those oh, dang it. Him throwing stuff, you can catch those with the telekinesis as well, so it's overall, fighting them is actually a very dynamic experience because of all the different attacks they have. Ha 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 ha, he had to step in real well. Although I actually didn't contribute to him being caught on fire or anything. And they can take quite a beating too. Oh crap, 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 he's going for the health machine. Just break the damn thing. There we go. Yeah, that's why if I didn't say so before, you always want to hack the health machines in this game compared to the first one, because even just from the side of the fact that the enemies can't heal from them, you also get the blue bonus health kit if you're lucky enough, so you get a second health kit for breaking it. But a lot of times in this game, if I'm in a hurry, I'll just break it and move on to get the health kit, and not really worry about trying to hack it so the enemies can't heal themselves with it. But anyway, well, the Brute Splicers, yeah, they're a pretty interesting enemy type because there's a lot of dynamic things you have to do when fighting them, like, you know, swapping different plasmids and stuff, and swapping ammo types, and swapping to the telekinesis to defend against their different attacks and whatnot. So they're pretty fun to fight, but I feel like the game kind of regretted its own decision to create them, because in this run, especially through the game, I did not notice hardly any of them. Like, there were not very many of them in this run through the game at all. So they're kind of a waste of a good idea, honestly, but they're loud, they make tons of noise, and waiting for see if I can get this new audio diary. There we go. Yeah, sometimes if you pick up, just like in the previous game, if you pick up an audio diary that automatically activates, but you're still holding A, you'll start playing the previous audio diary you picked up last time as soon as that one is finished. Here's a corpse right here. I don't think I want to do the gather on this one, though. There's another location where I want to do the gather, the final gather with his little sister, before we move on to the next one. But one of these has a code. One of these audio diaries has a code. There it is. It's just 47. And that's easy to remember, right?
I have no family, and no time for friends.
But yeah, like I said, I'll talk more about the Winter Blast that I bought when we actually get to use it, but basically, I think it's really good in this game, actually, unlike in the previous game where I didn't buy it at all. The reason I didn't see the need to buy it in the previous game, though, was because we had the chemical thrower, and spoilers, there is no chemical thrower in this game. So we don't have any liquid nitrogen to use anymore, so we have to pretty much use the Winter Blast to do any kind of ice elemental damage, so, or inflict the freezing status, essentially, so, but not that there's anything wrong with that. It ends up working out pretty well in the end, especially with, I can't really go into detail right now, but it without getting ahead of myself, but it combos really well with some other plasmids later in the game. Whew. And it makes for a hell of a lot of fun, so, I'll be showing that off when we actually get that fourth plasmid slot. But I'm slowly working my way up here. Basically what we're trying to do right now is get to the top of this building where we can get inside, and there's a certain key item we have to pick up in there. In the meantime, I'm exploring these side areas and getting all the loot. Then we're making our way, we're at the same time making our way to the second gather location, because I'm trying to do all this sort of along the path. You know, to avoid any backtracking or sidetracking. That's the last thing I want in a game like this, especially for the LP of it. I don't want to have to cut anything out either. Pretty sure all this is pretty optional though, this area over here that I'm going into now, but there might be something in here that I want to get. That's much needed ammo for the machine gun there. Oh, here we go. This is the location I want to do the gather at. Now, the nice thing about this location is there's plenty of environmental traps around here, including this camera that we can hack. So all the enemies that will be encountered in the gather will be tripping the alarm. Now, this also is kind of a downside, though, because all the explosions from the exploding barrels around you might make things a little bit chaotic for yourself as well. But oh well. Like I said, all the gather locations are totally optional, totally up to you. You don't have to do a gather right here if you don't want to. But either way, I still don't have a whole lot of defensive items yet, so I'm not really worried about setting up a perimeter there if I do decide to do it there. But go ahead and backtrack down here so we can get our core objective now. And that is this right here. It's the research camera from the previous game, although instead of taking still pictures, it's now a film camera. So
works like a movie camera.
we now record splicers, and that's how we get our research bonuses from them and everything. And just like in the previous game, the research bonuses are essentially good. Like they give us a lot of good upgrades we would not be able to get otherwise, but they're not quite. It's a little bit more difficult to do than in the previous game. Oh, there's that secret switch there that unlocks this secret storeroom in here, where there's also a Vita chamber. Thing is about it though is, like I said, it's a lot harder to do in the previous game, because in the previous game you just took a picture of the splicer. You know, you had consumable film you had to use up in order to do so, but it was cheap and in large quantities, so it was easy to do. It just took a few seconds to of additional work in every encounter to get the bonuses, and the rewards were spectacular. But in this game, it's kind of like what you have to do is, I'll demonstrate here. This is the tutorial for it, essentially. You start recording on a splicer or any kind of enemy, and then you have to fight it. And you get additional points for using a different variety of attacks against them. I'm not sure what the specific formula is for what attacks are the best for getting the best points or score when it comes to the rating of the final result, but it's pretty random, and a lot of times you can still pretty much get a good score that's good enough to max out each research by the end of the game simply by using like one weapon and plasmid combo, and that's it. You can pretty much get away with that, which I do recommend. But to me, I don't really like this feature. I mean, it does save a lot of time because you just turn it on and then you deal with the enemy. You don't have to take a bunch of pictures of them and then deal with them. But it just seems like a lot of busy work and more padding as well. And a lot of times you can just kind of forget to do it. In the previous game, it's like you always had the camera out, took a few pictures of the enemy, then you fought them. And here, it's like you have to remember to do that with each and every enemy. And there's no rewards for getting multiple enemies in the same shot anymore, like there was in the previous game, where it's like you could take a picture of an entire encounter and get points for the fact that there's multiple enemies on screen. In this, you can't really do that at all. You have to focus on one at a time. But one thing that's nice about it is Big Daddies are all in one category. You don't have to research Little Sisters, and turrets, cameras, and security bots are all in the same category as well, just under security. So they've simplified the categories a little bit and made it overall easier. And here's a scripted encounter with a Rosie here who's under attack by some splicers, so we're going to go ahead and record him a little bit. I don't know if I don't really want to attack him right now. I'm kind of good with whatever score the game gives me right now, just because I suppose I'll take advantage of it, but it's like I really don't want to fight him per se. I'm kind of forced into this just because of the circumstances of the game, because normally I would want to wait to fight him until after I've already completed all the gathers with his little sister, so I should have done that gather up at the location I was talking about before, but I figured I'd wait and do one of the places down here. That ended up being kind of a bad idea, so I tell you what, I'm going to backtrack real quick and do that last gather, so I can acquire the little sister from this new Big Daddy. He'll still be a little bit damaged when we go back to him, but we can only research one enemy once. And if we kill an enemy before we start researching it, you can still take a snapshot of their, like a little clip of their corpse. And it will say body research, but it won't really give you a score or whatever. It's a very minuscule amount of research. I'm not going to bother doing a setup for this gather, I'm just going to go for it. Which works sometimes, but it's still a much more dangerous way of going about it than I would recommend. One nice thing about gathers a lot of times is, depending on where you are, you have a set of music cues that come in when you start the gather, which means the game actually has a decent soundtrack at times compared to the previous one, which had little to no soundtrack at all, aside from the actual existing songs from real life that they used. A lot of which make a return in this game, if not adding some additional ones to that mix as well. I figure that's a pretty good example of that too. So, like I said, I keep forgetting to use the research camera a lot of the time against these enemies, and so a lot of the enemies that are difficult to max out are Big Daddies and Big Sisters. Big Sisters especially, because I'll explain later like how infrequently we actually have to fight Big Sisters, and so a lot of times it's like you fight them so infrequently you just don't think about it. So, but a lot of these minor enemies I will definitely max out their research by the end of the game. The same kind of rewards can be gotten from doing the research in this game as in the previous game. Damage upgrades, so that when the enemies scale for difficulty in the next respective level, it's not as much of a jarring change. And stuff like, the active camo for researching the Houdini splicers, or whichever one that is, and the ability to use the spider splicer organs as first aid kits as well. Although spider splicers are a bit more rare, so that ability is not quite as luxurious as it was in the first game. But overall, the research, I really am kind of on the fence about it. I think it was a feature that worked well enough in this game, but I really don't think it needed to be changed. That and the hacking, it seems like they were changed to edit out a lot of busy work, and yet in regards to the research, it still feels like they just sort of added, the way they changed it sort of contributed to the padding in this game, although the hacking, it definitely speeds things up a bit. Needless to say, not just because of the pacing of this game, but also our walk speed and my knowledge of this game and being able to go through levels at a decent pace compared to the first one, this LP will be a little bit longer than the first one, but not by much, I promise. I pretty much, I mean, the first game is not a terribly short game. I just like steamrolled through the last 2 or 3 levels of it though, and I cut out a lot of stuff. Probably more than I'll actually end up cutting out of this game, which is kind of sad because the first game was better, of course, so it's like you would think I'd want to leave in more content of the previous game than in this one. But I guess it was an easier decision of what to cut out of the previous game compared to this one, but again, why dwell on the past? Door? Door!
It's in the blood.
There we go.
Eventually they give themselves over.
Anyway, I gotta figure out a way to find a vent here so I can deal with this little sister and then get that second one we saw out there. But I keep being distracted by loot.
I'm going to find Lamb and take Cindy back one way or another.
Huh, we use an auto-hack dart to get 2 auto-hack darts back. I also acquired a new alternate ammo type for the machine gun, which is the armor-piercing auto rounds, which will be useful against that Big Daddy out there. I actually really like the armor-piercing auto rounds in this game compared to in the previous game, where I didn't really use the machine gun against Big Daddies all that much. I actually quite like it in this game by comparison. I guess it's because we don't have the electric buck, which was broken in the previous game. Yeah, I definitely want to get that camera too. Like I said, don't be like me and forget to research the camera first. One thing that instead of damaging the cameras and destroying them to get research, what I would do is inflict them with a plasmid like Winter Blast or Electrobolt, and then hack them, and that'll complete your research. Same thing with turrets and security bots as well. Because you don't want to damage them and end up ruining them later.